As we're facing a troubled world and building a new one as we go, holding each other stronger together, standing as a people so bold.
So good morning. Hi, Clive. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, great. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Um, it's just so lovely to have you here today. We want to talk to you about your background in graphic design and your background in activism and how those two things have come together in a very spectacular way. Very notably for our movement as well. You were one of the first members and collaborators in Extinction Rebellion, or XR, as many of us know it, which is a global climate activism movement begun here in the UK in 2018, using nonviolent civil disobedience to respond to the ongoing climate crisis. So, yeah, what were the first signs that XR was actually hitting a nerve?
Yeah, I guess when you do things, anything really in life, you should not expect it to go as well as you think it might go. So you tend to go into these things with a low bar of expectation. So I think the first time we realized it was obviously hitting the mark. And we've got to remember back in 2018, it's the point where there was all of the information released via the UN about the IPCC report, all of that. So the sort of the prescience of it was quite important. And we'd been doing a lot of work beforehand anyway, as a group, which I could come back to. But the first time was walking out Westminster Tube on Declaration Day and we're kind of actually, is it, I think it's tomorrow, 2018. So however many years ago that is, I can't, 7 years ago. No, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. Anyway, and realizing that maybe one man and his dog wasn't the only person who was going to turn up that day. There was Parliament Square was had about 1,000 odd people in it, and that sort of as soon as you've had that reaction, it's obviously hit a nerve somewhere.
And famously too, that the artwork for that, the all of the graphics around XR were very distinctive very early on, which obviously you had a huge part in. And what was that development process like on trying to brand a very much kind of citizens activated group?
Well, I mean, for at the beginning, it wasn't our first gig. So, I mean, in 2011, we did the Brixton Pound. That then, through the Brixton Pound, I met Miles, who was a neighbour of mine, and Claire. And me and Charlie, who did the Brixton Pound, worked together for a very long time. And we developed something called Brixtopia, where we were using some of the things that you'd see later in XR for the first time. So we're blending our practices together, fine artist, design, fashion design. So Miles and Claire were doing something called Body Politic, which was about using your body to embody the slogans that you represent. As you could see later, that came out in XR as well. So there's lots of things we're bringing into the space already. And we started looking at this. The brief we got was called Out of Time, and that was in May 2018. We quite rightly suggested Out of Time was a dreadful name because nobody would understand it. And actually, it needed to be named in a way that people could fundamentally understand what you were trying to do. It was a rebellion against extinction. So there's at the heart of this, there's simplicity. There's also a lot of study of previous movements. We looked quite heavily into the suffragettes, May 68, looking back into our past, also with the woodcuts that Miles did. You can obviously see a strong arts and crafts sort of message coming through there. So looking into traditions, bringing the past into the future, imagining what that would look like now rather than in the past. One of the big mistakes people often do is just copy. It's not, there's a method called interpretation. And
Yeah,
that's the design
yeah.
bit. So it's sort of don't just copy the past, interpret it, imagine what it could be like now. But also those messages from William Morris, for me personally, the Bauhaus, Dadaism, Macy's, they're all relevant today. People don't change that much. It's just the way we see ourselves changes.
Right. And I mean, and you can see, I mean, even in me as a complete layperson, I have very little, graphic design knowledge, but you can see those, Bauhaus and Morris, as you say, I mean, very easily. And the designs are, from my perspective too, they were beautiful. They obviously the color palette was really vibrant and, noteworthy, and people could engage with it. I mean, you also did have you did have some of it being done in black and white too, which had its own striking, contrasts as well. But it was just so heartwarming as you guys were getting going, just to start seeing them kind of pop up everywhere and starting to be able to recognize it. And it did, if you were trying to connect with it, it made you feel like you are not alone in this, like that we are, there are a lot of us out there.
Yeah, and a lot of it was obviously the symbol itself pre-existed. It was an East End street artist. I live near Ridley Road, and there used to be one of those symbols on Ridley Road Market. And it's so bringing things that people instantly recognize, already have credibility within the space, but also the strong color scheme. That was really important because green movements prior to XR kind of looked inside themselves more. And I think that's the point of using design properly. It communicates outwards, not inwards. And that's massively important. And the use of color. Color is very visceral, instant, and very recognizable. So if you could mix a palette of colors together that would work through materials and through print and all of those things, so it was relatively very simple palette actually. Then and repeat that, repeat that, repeat that. Then when people arrive at a protest, they will understand who you are. And the idea of flags was very important as well. Using flags, not lots of messages. It becomes more intersectional because it's a very broad subject matter we're dealing with, and people come to it with very certain ideas about what they think will be the thing that changes. And actually, it's all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But people bring the thing they're most interested in.
Sure. I mean, yeah, there is just so much. I mean, you cannot talk about environmental activism without talking about class activism, without talking about racial activism. All these things just come together. And but I feel like XR does a great job at not excluding anybody in this conversation. I mean, just the way this artwork's even done is very inclusionary, whatever that word is.
Well, it was try and create an umbrella that people could fit their own ideas underneath. So, and also the idea of giving it all away, making toolkits, all of those sort of things was really important too, because that then allowed people to write their own scripts within the broader narrative. So that helps people to expand. And when you're dealing with difficult issues, having creative ways of expressing yourself also helps with the massive issues that you may find around the mental issues around dealing with something as a hyper object like climate catastrophe. I mean, that's a lot to ask people to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, we've noticed that some of the climate work that we do around the movement is doing workshops and things. There's some creative aspects around that, and people just sitting down with materials and being able to draw and do mosaics or make little sculptures really does help to kind of work through some of the anger, grief, all of the emotions that are around this, because it's a very complex set of issues. Obviously, climate is not just one. So yeah, that's really having that access to creative outlets is really, really important.
And I think it's important, when you look back again at other, arts and crafts movement was about using craft to emancipate people. The Bauhaus talked about the death of genius and the concentration on the greater average. It's all of this. It's about including people in and not making design an elitist subject. That's really important.
And so most recently, you had an exhibit, The Right to Protest, where you gathered together like 200 posters from various activist design groups. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the background for this exhibit?
Yeah, so one of the groups I work with it's not a group, it's a organization called the Museum of Unrest. It's online. You can visit it. It's got a very easy name to find. that started out as a sort of online museum where we would invite curators to come and create a collection. I've done a collection there called Good Design that investigates what is good design and what does that actually mean beyond the idea of aesthetics. And we thought, well, actually, it's all very well and good doing this online, but we actually have access to two amazing, enormous poster archives. We also met up with some great people at Gretorick Street Gallery who are thinking of, and are enacting a thing called Pro Radix, which is beginning to think about using the space in different ways. So they have performance nights there and all of those sort of things. So opening the space up, making it more accessible to the community. And so the idea of putting together an exhibition where we had artworks one side of the space and then a history of protest. And of course, at the moment, the right to protest is under threat. And it's very important to how society continues to develop that protest isn't placed under threat. It's very simple. I mean, we only have to look at the past again to realize that the great leaps we've made are often due to protest. And the Unitarians have the dissenting past, which is a massive part of that in the 18th century. So,
and that's continuing. We famously recently had one of our ministers was arrested amongst the others in Wales in collaboration with Palestine Action, and the idea that we are this close to becoming a very censored society is scary.
Yeah, it's really difficult, and I think getting those posters together. So I work with an old hero of mine, actually. It's really nice. So when I was at art school, I used to look at the Paddington print shop work and think, isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing that something that is being solely used for commercial purposes, design, can actually have a non-commercial iteration of itself? And what I didn't realize was the amount of community work that the Paddington print shop actually did, and how all of their work was kind of briefed via communities. So they were enabling communities to speak for themselves. And some of the more famous work is the anti-apartheid work they did, and obviously lots of work around Notting Hill Carnival and things like that. So showing that on the wall, along with a Welsh archive as well,
cool.
was really important because it takes people back to key points. But what we didn't want to do is, one, put the posters in frames, because that's not the way you view a poster. It's difficult enough taking a poster into a gallery because you're already changing its content.
Sure. Yeah.
But then also mixing them together with the new stuff. We got a lot of stuff that's current from Gaza. We also reached out to a lot of graphic artists to ask for them to interpret the term "the right to protest." What does that mean in form of a poster? So it was mixing everything together to create quite a crazy but very rich room of posters, where you couldn't tell what the past was and what the present was, which is really important because they kind of exist alongside one another.
Yeah, well, especially it feels like today we're reliving a lot of these old movements, and so very relevant. And I mean, so what is next then? Is there going to be another iteration of this, or do you have something new in the works?
Yeah, I think we were talking the other day. I think we would like to do the exhibition again in a bigger space. There's a lot of feedback we got was that it wasn't on for long enough, and because it was only on for 10 days. It had a very big footfall and got a lot of media attention, especially in the design press. So that alone is enough probably for us to think, well, we probably should do it again. It's just finding a space to do it in. That's and to have that space for a longer amount of time, because then that will allow more people, and also be able to program the space to do other things as well. Because whilst you've got all of this stuff for people to see, actually, there's lots of other forms of protest that we can bring in, like performance. There's people that should be talking in a space like that. And also workshops. We did a great workshop on the first Saturday with Peter Kennard and Kat Phillips, a group I belonged to, Ocean Rebellion, and we did great. We took it right down to near the street. This is the wonderful thing about the gallery. It had a big long corridor and an outer space as well, and so we were able to set up tables. Families came in, kids were printing, and of course they were also going into the exhibition, which is great.
Oh, sure. That sounds amazing. And well, good luck. Yeah, finding that perfect space.
Never easy.
It's never easy. No, I know. So yeah, maybe just to kind of finish up, because it's been a really rich in the short period of time. I feel like we've had a nice conversation about your background and how art and activism come together. I guess I just wanted like a few more thoughts about what part to play that art has in our cultural consciousness with regard to these really divisive social issues, and how can art help us digest and understand these issues?
I think, art is in itself should be always thinking about protesting and moving society along. Likewise, design. You, as an artist or a designer, you're in a relatively privileged position. You've had a really good education. You've probably had met lots of amazing communicators from the past. So to not connect, a lot of art is disconnected from society. It exists in its own space entirely. A lot of the artists that were in the exhibition don't do that, obviously, and are very anti that. But actually, one of the people who didn't turn up because his studio burned down, which is pretty crazy, Stuart Semple. He's the person who created the pigment that everyone could use for free apart from Anish Kapoor, which I think is a great statement about how there are two forms of art that exist. There is art that is very elitist and done for a certain echelon of society, and then there's the rest of it. And the rest of it is often community biased. It often does try to do things that bring other voices forward. And there's lots of artists doing that. It's just that they're as usual, we have a very poor media in this country. And we have a society that is hell-bent on promoting the elite above everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really great that you continue this work. And thank you so much for all that, you've done in the name of XR and just in general. Because you're right. I, as again, layperson with, very much an interest in art, but, not much background, it is really, when you have the big art is just always shoved in your face. And that, I'm very lucky to live in London, so I can, at any moment go to a small gallery or do something like that. But most people don't have that, privilege. And it's fantastic if we can get sort of the grassroots art, movement more publicity.
Yeah, definitely. And there's lots of, and design itself has been massively coerced by, all of our experience of design now is through commercial experience. So it's adverts, designers don't actually enjoy that.
I bet they don't. Yeah.
It's a horrible space to work in. And even the people running the spaces at the top level are like disenchanted with that sort of work. It's not what they want to do. And it's just the pressure of having to earn money that's forcing them into it.
It's not helping us understand the human condition to flog a hamburger or whatever. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. That was a conversation with Clive Russell, a graphic designer and social activist based in Hackney, East London. You can learn more about Clive and his work at the Museum of Care website at museum.care.
Standing as people so bold, walking into the unknown. Whatever will come, we know we're ready for the changes. It's darkest before the dawn.